Hello, everybody. We about to start this live stream off, and I want to say we're about to get into specifically reparations, and we got a dope ass panel. So I hope everybody's ready. I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves. So hopefully, everybody's vibing, and we can get down to the business. First, I want to welcome up FD Signifier. So I'm gonna bring him on in.
Test this. We good?
Yeah, you're a little booming actually. You kind of going hard.
Hold on, let me move the mic back a little bit and turn it down a tad. What's good, everybody? I'm here. Y'all know who I am. It is what it is. I no need to get all extra with it. I'm here to learn today.
Okay. I think we all got a little knowledge we can share. Next, I want to bring in the philosopher noir. What's up? How are you doing?
Can't hear you.
That's embarrassing. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
What's going on? There's like a huge shadow on your face too. Maybe you could
Hold on.
It's kind of how your light. It's a shadow of you, which is.
How is that possible? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's better. Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself and talk about your channel real quick?
Yeah, I'm Philosopher Noir. I do pretty much race commentary on my channel. I've been doing it for about 2-3 years now. Most of it's like kind of just an intro to things you want to learn about, like done videos on code switching, abolition, and Negrescence was my latest one. That's a passion project of mine. But yeah, I've been on camera so long. God, got how to talk.
I feel like it's gonna be good because I've been actually watching you since before I was at 1,000. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean. Obviously, you drop mad knowledge, so I feel like you got some shit to spit for sure.
I appreciate that.
Also, next one, bring Lua to introduce. If you want to introduce yourself, if people don't know Professor Flowers, you know what I mean. So,
yeah, hey, I'm Lua. I have a channel called Professor Flowers on YouTube, and I like to focus on media and analyzing that.
Dope. And then I want to bring the next person in, Color Mind, and if we're gonna fuck it up, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us about your channel real quick, like.
Hey, what's up? Name's Colormind. That's Tayo on all social medias, and I run a YouTube channel called Colormind, where I guess talk about things that I thought about, so other people can think about them too. Usually, revolving around music or progressive politics, or basically anything that I kind of learned about and want to explain.
Bet. I hope they're ready. Now next to bring up Richie from FTP. I don't know if you're ready right now or not. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm good, y'all. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Richie, organizer with Fight Toxic Prisons, school teacher by day, and like abolitionist organizer like by day and night. Happy to be with y'all. So ready to have this conversation.
All right, and we got one more person to come on later. I don't know what's going on, but they'll hopefully be here soon. So we might just hop them in when they get here. You know what I mean? So, well, I want to go around and see what everybody's thoughts as it stands are on like what reparations is. What's your like process when you think about them? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And then I guess we'll just jump in a little deeper.
Sure. Who wants to go first?
I vote for Colormind.
Oh, wow!
I second that.
Nominated.
Oh, put on the spot.
Pink first day of class energy. That's crazy. Okay, so here's my thing about reparations. The fact that the idea of reparations is so hard to talk about with a certain population of the country is more than weird. Like, I don't know a stronger word to use than weird. I think it's more than unethical is a strong word, but when we talk about reparations, the conversation gets so quickly to either like how are we going to pay for it, or the fact that it feels wrong for another group of another demographic to get their their due for some past wrong that they weren't intimately connected with, that it makes me think, what exactly are we afraid of when it comes to reparations? Like, why is this such a hard conversations to have, at least to like do little steps? Because when we talk, the way that a lot of people deflect the reparations is they'll immediately go to this worst case scenario, right? Or they'll be like, oh, so you just want us to give like $2,000 or $20,000 a week to every person with melanin? No, right? Like, we don't have to go there. I mean, yes, actually, that's just what I would want. But we don't have to go there, right? You could at least say, hey, you are reasonable in what you're asking for, and we're gonna at least give you something. At least think about wanting to come to the table in a kind of reconciliation like nature. I guess I want to say similar to South Africa, like in their reconciliation period, but I do not know enough about that to know if that was like how chaotic a time that was. But reparations, in long story short, is something that is really probably one of the most important topics I think that we don't talk about enough in politics, and it's because it is a really good answer to racial equity. It's just a really good starting point. So that's what I think about.
No, for real. I'll just go next. For me, it's like a very misconstructed like conversation. Like, usually when people talk about reparations, people would think this is asking every white American to write a check or every white American to have money taken out of their check. But in most cases, it's not really that argument. It's always pointed towards like the government itself. So I think that's the first step of what people get nervous about. They just think it's coming straight out of their check. And secondly, it's just people don't want to acknowledge. I don't think Americans like to acknowledge that there was money built there during slavery. And that's something they have to acknowledge, but they don't want to like acknowledge that because they look at it realistically. What you handing out, what, $20K everybody? And even if you were to do that, which they probably aren't going to do, that money is not guaranteed to stay in the community. So a lot of different things on that, really.
So reparations is like a topic is one of my weaker areas of knowledge within the kind of like the realm of political racial issues.
Yeah.
And I really I wonder why that is. Because it's something that comes up a lot, but it's never came up to me in a serious nature. Like, it feels like the affirmative action debate, and so it's kind of something I checked out on. It just kind of for me, it became this thing that white moderates and conservatives would bring up because they just wanted to debate a black guy that knew stuff. And like after that, I kind of just checked out of even talking about it too much. Yeah. And so the last time I had like a serious conversation with it was with BP on a live a couple of months back, and BP like schooled me on some different ways to think about it. And I was like, oh snap, I probably could revisit that, which I haven't. I've been doing too much other stuff, but it definitely like opened me up to the fact that this is a topic I don't know. I don't feel as confident in that I feel like I should know more about.
Yeah, for sure.
All that to say, excuse me, all that to say that the biggest thing that I think resonates with me is kind of like creating a better designed discourse around it that is less prone to, for lack of a better word, memification by white folks and conservatives, etc. So that whatever possibilities that may come from it can be, well-intentioned and designed, as opposed to it being this just discourse football for white folks to toss around.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, there's many different ways to do reparations. Like, many people go straight to money, but you can also do different things. You can do like universal free college, or a housing program, or a police abolition / reform, whichever way you go, or a black education grant, like I said, or free healthcare, a free trip to Africa from wherever region you descend from. They do that with Jewish people, so I feel like that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I think when you ask for money, and people, Americans in particular, like probably just check out immediately.
Liberalism,
Like you don't want to just give people money.
I think they check out in general
when it's not about them.
When ask, we ask what you want. Well, you always want free stuff, like. Again,
but no, I think at the end of the day, a lot of reparations, like pragmatically, just looks like more responsible, like fiscal spending, like from the state. When you think about it, I've been doing a lot of reading on this new. God, oh my God, I'm gonna sound like such an asshole. Okay, I've been doing some economic reading on this thing called modern monetary theory, MMT, and the long and short of it is like, hey, look, what if the state doesn't need our money? What if the state just needs us to pay taxes, therefore money can exist, right? What if it's not, where's the money going to come from? What is it like? The government makes the money and then gives it to us. That way they can get it back. And that feels a lot more like how money works, right? Like the only reason why I need US dollars is to pay US taxes, or else I'd like trade for other things. But which a lot of other stuff, but I'm not gonna go into that.
Yeah,
that's the base idea. And with that, the whole reason for why that's important, right? It fundamentally shifts all the economic policy decisions that conversations and debates we're having, right? Because now you don't have that capitalistic. I think we're very constrained by the fact that we're in a market economy, right? We don't have the excuse of saying like, well, we can't just give people money, inflation, or we can't just give people money like it's going to take a bite out of somebody else's profits. That was my Hilton's great grandfather, or whatever the fuck. But here's like, hey, look, no, you could, like, the government creates the currency, so you can provide resources where they need to be. Because personally, as a citizen, I think like that's the basic thing the state should be doing. I feel like that's what my taxes were supposed to be doing. So a lot of times I feel like that comes to it's that fundamental reshifting, right? If we want to ever take this conversation seriously, it's saying like, all right, can we stop asking about how much it's going to cost and start asking about like, hey, if all of these disenfranchised people were housed, fed, educated, how much more money would we? How much more output would we have as a society?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way to look at it as well.
Lou, what can I get your first thoughts on what reparations looks like to you, or what your first impressions of it is?
Yeah. Well, I'm like in a similar boat as Feek, where it's like it's definitely something I need to read up on more. But just for me, like when I look at the history of the US, for example, and I just see like how like literally like the slaves were freed and then the slave owners got some sort of
right,
like reparations in a way, and not even the slaves did. And just like the continuation of just like how at every point Black people were just pretty much like denied any just even like a level playing field, like at every point. And then you even like look at the 20th century with the New Deal era acts, and you like look at how like those just helped white people, or those almost exclusively helped white people. And so there's just like all these things that like there's all these instances where white people were able to build generational wealth, like in relatively new, like people in our grandparents' generation, for some of us, that essentially Black people were just not allowed access to. You have the New Deal era acts, then you have redlining. Those are like some two very major events. And so to me, when people talk about reparations, like just for the sake of poor Black communities, just like having a level playing field, because I ultimately would ideally like it where everyone in society just has their needs met. But just like in the state that we are now, of just like needing to level the playing field, people needing access to resources, unfortunately that means money in this society. To me, it's just like the least you could do. It's like a very, very small thing you could do. It's a place that like you could start there, and there's like obviously a lot more to do, but that's just like a small thing that you could do. So when people get very defensive about reparations, I'm also just really annoyed. Yeah, just because it just seems like a very small thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to acknowledge that, Jim Crow, slavery, etc., like there's something to the community. And it's like they want the community to take full responsibility for it completely, and it's like it's unrealistic. It's completely unrealistic for that.
And also in a like kind of a counter way, right? Like us taking or the community taking responsibility is trying to hold their oppressors accountable
Yeah, that's
for
right. We're
what they're
trying.
doing. And that's what they're mad about. Like, no, don't find the solution that way. Like, no, just like it really what I feel like the quiet part is like exploit some other like group to do what we did, which I think is how you get a lot of black capitalism. But like that's like that's why they don't want to have the conversation, because the idea, right, in America of even giving up something is a loss. It's seen as a reduction, even though when you think about it, like it'd be going right back into the country. It would be a surplus by it be an investment. But that's not how they see it, because that's not how you're supposed to make your money. It needs to be through the market, Wolf of Wall Street style, or at least through the fucking phrase, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
I mean, they get bailouts. They just don't call reparations.
That's kind
that part.
That part. Like, there's a fundamental. I don't know if this came from like the partisan, the Puritan work ethic, the Protestant work ethic.
Max Weber and the Protestant work ethic.
Yeah, I think he explained. I don't know. It's in one of them old white philosophy, sociology.
Yeah, FD,
foundational joints. And so basically, but what it goes to is like there's a fundamental like ethos with a lot of Americans, most normies, right? That people get what they deserve. I'm saying the Puritans because the Puritans believed it.
No, it is. Yeah, no, it definitely comes from that. Like the Protestant work ethic that is steeped in both like colonialism and white supremacist values, because it created this idea that those who act justly are going to be the most wealthy. But it's also deeply entrenched in capitalism, because it was a very specific group of people. Like black and brown folks were completely not like a part of like this alleged ethic. And there's no idea of communal values or any of that type of stuff like within that understanding of like ethic, right? Because again, like it's based on a white supremacist myth, because like the folks that are in charge and they're in power, they're able to like say, hey, we got this because we deserve it. And that goes back to like a whole other set of like critical analytical tools used to like think about, okay, where does the capitalist where's the capitalism mindset framework, like where are all those connections? And that's one of those that's deeply rooted since that white folks, I'm gonna be very specific here. If I offend some people, I'm very sorry. Actually, I'm not. Sorry, not. Like I be saying that all the time. I tell kids all the time, the one thing I hate is when people apologize for things they're not sorry for. I'm not sorry if I offend white people. I just can't. But so that's one thing, that framework of saying that that framework where white folks are like, we deserve this, so then we get this. Like that's all trained into like very old debates, very old debates and like ideas of racism and white supremacy. Like I go in a whole like really long discussion on where all those origin points are if somebody wants to hear that one day. But just to like make the sum of it, it's just those ideas were perpetuated and by folks, and they're divorced from like the ideal of color. So that's how it just became entrenched to like as like Protestantism, not necessarily just white supremacy, even though it really is.
Right. And so you take that, right? So you take that there is an ingrained ideology in most Americans, most white people, that the Puritans believed in predestination, that if you were rich, it was because God legit chose you to be rich,
be wealthy, right?
And who are we to change that and to challenge that?
To doubt the man.
You know what I'm saying? And so like that sounds silly to us now, but like I was watching. I know everybody.
It's still like FD. It's still like very much entrenched in folks today.
But hold on. This I watched this video popped up. I know everybody don't like him, but Hassan did a video. Well, I saw a video that popped up. Some white guy on TikTok was walking through a Costco, and he's like, I can't afford to buy groceries from Costco for Christmas, but look at all these other people who steal money. And it's like, you don't even know these motherfuckers. He just assumes because he sees people, because he's poor and he sees people of color, that these other people must be somehow benefiting in a way that is unjust, just by virtue of color in class that he perceives. And so I say all that to say, the one barrier to reparations is the very idea that we as a people are somehow deserving of recompense for what we've been through. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And like that is going to be the major fundamental challenge. To bring in some media, I love I love really everything about The Watchmen now. Like The Watchmen was so prophetic that it came out, the TV series that came out like I think the year before COVID, and it predicted January 6th and QAnon. It predicted the white lash of white responses to any type of black organizing in progress. And in the show, reparations had happened, and there was like that was the catalyst for a uprising of white supremacist terrorism, because they just didn't like the idea that black folks got some shit.
That's another thing. You give money only to black people, bro.
But
human.
That actually gets to something that I wanted to say about.
Well, I want to see what BP was about to say. Because
here's the thing: go ahead, when it comes down to it, the backlash in reality didn't happen over reparations. I wish it did, but it happened over motherfuckers wanting to talk about real American history and how it's white supremacists. Like that was enough to set motherfuckers off in this country, and that should speak volumes. Yeah. One thing I want to spin on the reparations as the resident extremist on here. All right, is here's the thing. When we think about reparations, right? Like people act like a lot of times people who aren't black act like it is something that we're feeling entitled or something, versus it's a debt that's been owed that literally our labor built the foundation to the whole infrastructure of this fucking country. And now here's the thing: they really don't. I think why they really don't want to talk about reparations, because when we think about it, right, with the U.S. alone, I'm just saying U.S. folks. I'm saying reparations is owed to everybody of African diaspora.
All black folks clear about globally, that. Yeah.
But when we take in consideration just the reparations that was promised within inside the U.S. to black folks from inside the U.S., there's 41.6 million of us, right? That adds up to 40 acres, right? And one thing I'm really big on is we can pay. You can pay the interest to the debt that's owed in cash, but for me, I'm really like, yeah, you can't pay it in cash. It's got to be land. Land is the only possible way you can pay us reparations. You do owe us interest, so you can go ahead and give us that in cash. But what it really adds to is that's 1,664,000,000 acres, which when you think about that Europe, and they can't give us, and I'm very big on this, they can't give us indigenous land. This land we sit on belongs to the indigenous people of the Americas. It isn't theirs to give us. So when you think about what they'd have to give us European land. That is over 60% of Europe that's owed to just the U.S. black folks. And so I think that's one of the things they don't want. That's like, oh, we can't do that, because that would upend everything we have, right? That upend everything, because to pay that debt back is to pay back things you took so much you can't pay it back type shit, right?
Yeah, like you said, the literal foundation. Like, I mean, if you really want to get to if my personal perfect reparations would be the abolition of capitalism.
Hell yeah.
Because that's really what it starts.
I was gonna go with it. Like,
if we're getting real,
hell yeah,
take $1 trillion, over $1 trillion.
Yeah.
You want to give me over $1 trillion? No, you don't.
Well, yeah, and that's
you can't even. You wouldn't like. What does that even mean to give a person
the money is like?
At that point?
I'm doing a video on it. I'm doing a video. I had to read these numbers, bro. I don't even know what these numbers say half the time. I ain't even learned that number. I mean, what? 9-digit, 10-digit ass number? What the fuck?
Like, I'm gonna highlight that though. Reparations equals abolition. Like, abolition of capitalism, abolition of the state, like abolition of police and the criminal punishment system. Like, cause like for me, that's another big part of it though. Like, what I would say is problematic about most discussions about what reparations is that the foundation of reparations comes from like the state giving people something back, or the government giving people back stuff. But for real, when you're talking real talk about reparations, like there's a term called epigenetics, and like that describes like the long history of like psychological trauma, psycho and social trauma that Black folks feel. Like there needs to be reparations for that stuff too. It's not just the economic thing; it's a emotional thing. Like it's everything because like capitalism, slavery, it's literally destroyed the lifespan of many Black and brown folks, like generationally. And we're not even talking about what y'all were talking about earlier in the sense of shit, like people having undue access to land, people having undue access to like health, wealth, resources, all those different things. Like it's a pretty big ass thing. Like I don't know how else to say it.
There's one thing that I've always think about with reparations, which is, and I'm trying to I want to make sure I word this right because I don't want it to come off I don't want it to come off anti-Black, but like I don't trust do you know who I've heard talk more about reparations than anybody?
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Charlemagne.
Oh, that shit is terrible.
Yeah, but even more than him is Charlemagne the God.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's like what that tells me is that the Black bourgeoisie and the Black elites and these Black like either liberal operatives or outright conservatives, like any form of reparations that we get anytime soon, my fear is that it's going to be in the hands of people who are not aligned to Black people as a whole, and they're only aligned to Black people of a certain class, and that reparations would just become like seven different Atlantas across the country. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like because Atlanta is like I live here. I love it here. I love the people I went to school with to an extent, but like you know, and I'm recovering out of like a kind of oblivious class consciousness state that I was in for most of my, I mean, in and out of, but like definitely am reflecting on it more explicitly in the last like 5 or 6 years. And it's like the other night I went to my first like bougie Negro get together, like game night. And since COVID, and y'all was in the chat. Some of y'all was in the chat, and I'm like, yo, motherfuckers is wilding right now. Like I can't like, and so it's like the thing that I fear is that if we don't get on a certain like level of reclamation of Black political power, that the people that if we were to get reparations, the people that would get it for us would very quickly sell us out. You know what I'm saying? Would very quickly, you know, do what a lot of new Negroes have been doing. And so like because you said Ta-Nehisi Coates, but it's Charlemagne the God. Like all these,
right? But like what
Ta-Nehisi was the person I thought of for sure. That like
but like what do you think? What do you guys think that reclamation would begin to look like? Because when I think about the inevitability of if something like reparations happens, right, or just giving anything on the basis of the like Richie said, like the sort of epigenetic damage of being from the diaspora, like it's going to then open up all these other voices that are not as aligned in Black thought. Like it is just it's going to show how varied the diaspora really is, and maybe that is inevitable. So I guess I don't know. I am wondering what reclamation will look like. Yeah,
and I also fear like even if we get it, I feel like it will be not enough, and two, it'll be pointed at as like we gave you reparations, so shut the fuck up about the prison system. You know, like we did it, we fixed it. What more do you want, nigga? Like leave me alone. 1,000.
Like,
that's what you get.
I just fed you.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's gonna be treated like hush money more than anything. I feel like,
right. And certain niggas will take that hush money. That's what I'm saying, because they'll know they got theirs, and so they will be perfectly fine with saying, "All right, we got ours." Like, man. So to answer, did I cut anybody off? I don't know if I did.
Yeah, a little bit. But
my bad. I'm gonna stop because I want to have freedom to go on this tangent about to go on. So I'm gonna stop for a second. Let you go.
Well, no, I think one of the things is that's why I'm so big on it can only be land thing. And I think it shouldn't be a delegated out. It should be like, no, we all get it in the story. Like we split this shit equally. It's all 40 acres. And I think as far as the interest, That's what I think what we can talk about. But the thing is, when I'm being realistic, I don't picture them ever giving us reparations, right? They're not going to give us what we're owed. The only way that's going to happen is if we literally take it. Like, we're like, no, bro, nah, we ain't going to sit here and let y'all just continue to screw us and oppress our people. We're going to go in and we're going to like convince people to divest from y'all system. If you pick my words very carefully, you know what I mean? And the thing is, I don't think I think the one thing is like they give us a false equivalence of reparations. I think that's the most likely. I think that's what you guys were kind of touching on, right? Where it was not nearly enough. It's not even close because
they've been giving apologies out here for some reparations, like, and they count that in some. I'm like, that's
apologies pay my rent,
like, right?
Like apologies count for student loan repayment. I just
that's what I'm saying. We're so sorry. Like,
and here's the thing too. Like, also, this all been blowing my mind is I've been organizing for a while, right? And there's a good chunk. I think this is 2011. We might have already left it. Actually, we were in the decade of Actually, no, it might go to 2024. So I think it's from 14 to 2024. It's supposed to be the decade of reparations. Where the fuck is the reparations, my nigga? Like, I'm like these motherfuckers out here talking about, oh, it's decade of reparations, but you ain't gave a black person not a bit of reparations, and then not even talking about everybody else you owe reparations, including indigenous people, which only reparations you can really give them again is their land back. So, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything goes back to land back. Everything goes back to a more collectivist form of economy. Everything goes back to a library economy. Honestly, I think that would honestly probably even be a helpful reframing of a type of reparations if there was like some sort of funding to establish more library economies, more communities just having things where instead of everybody has, I'm thinking back to St. Andrewism video, everybody has a lawnmower. We just need 3 lawnmowers because everybody not cutting their grass at the same time. That's something that you could maybe get a grant from the state from. Like easy shit like that is, and I guess to BP's point about how it's never going to happen, and FD's point about how can we start to take it more seriously, so we don't just check out. I guess maybe it inevitably is those thinking of the different ways reparations the state can give us reparations that gets me more excited about some way we get close.
Yeah, in a way, we don't have to really like theorize about it. Like, it's been a reparations bill on the floor for like 40 years now. Like, it's been there, and they ain't even giving the money out. They just want to talk about
that shit's
studying.
symbolic.
They want to talk about studying reparations and recommending things about maybe we can recommend this, but everybody's like, nah. Until like this year, it was approved. Like, maybe we can talk about it.
We need to assess the data. We need to look at the long trends.
Yeah.
One thing, Colorman was like, what does that look like in terms of like reclamation of Black political thought? And I think like one of the things that I've been, I'm planning like content around and just I've been focusing on in my like time on YouTube is figuring out what happened to the Black left. Well, not so much figuring it out, right? Because I think we all know, but like bringing that story back to the forefront, because 50, 60 years ago, or a little earlier or less, the Black left was the most prominent Black entity of Black, like leftists, socialists, etc., was the most prominent like entity of Black political thought in the country. And over the course of about 30 years, it completely disappeared. People were killed, jailed, exiled, etc. And what I think I'm seeing now, what I think a lot of people experience post-Obama is kind of like we're in a moment where a lot of people are kind of recognizing the problem. Yeah. And so like, I think what we're doing is important, but I also think like street level, organizing is happening more now than it was, at least when I was in undergrad and in the position to be in the streets doing stuff, like it wasn't that much going on. And so I think as we reclaim the popular like sentiment of Black people into a real leftist action and thought, you're gonna see a shift in you're gonna see that reclamation start to happen. You know what I'm saying? As people are brought up in an ethos, like everybody on here, well, I'm not sure about Richie, but like everybody on here is making content to educate their peers about these things, and we're reaching people, and that's a ripple effect. You know what I'm saying? And so maybe people won't know, or maybe people won't have to wait until they get to undergrad, or they get out of they won't have to go to college to learn about Pan-African movements and learn about George Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like those things will become back in common parlance. And once that happens, everything else starts to shift because the baseline is different. At least that's my my pie in the sky hope. Hold up, yo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
No, yeah.
Facts.
I mean, I always a renaissance of sorts.
I always
I think we're definitely going through like a rising of Black leftism, I would say. Or at least the beginning of a rise of Black leftism.
To push back a little bit, I gotta say this. Like, I feel like we gotta question the whole spectrum too. Like, right? Because like when we talk about like Malcolm, right? And I think FD pointed this out. Malcolm wasn't a leftist, but we consider the Panthers were, right? But the Panthers were directly inspired by Malcolm. So I think when we come to the like what the Black thought is, Black thought I don't think fits into the boxes of the European Eurocentric spectrum, right, of the right and left, because that shit is based out of France. So I think it kind of like I think we lose pieces of that realization too. Like I feel like even among the leftists, like the Panthers want to differentiate themselves, right? Because like not wanting to call themselves communists, but instead intercommunalists, right? And like speaking different languages before our people that was catered to our people. Because I think a lot of times we let ourselves fall and slip into this spectrum that is based off a European mindset, right? And I think
for sure.
I think that's a big thing. And as well as like for me, I don't know, where I learned about everything for me was in prison, and I had to self-teach myself. I was like, okay, if I'm going to be sitting here in prison, because here's the thing is I wanted to go to college in prison, got to prison, realized there is no such thing. Like Bill Clinton ended that shit. So like, so I went to prison, like, God damn, what I can do is like, well, I can like try to elevate myself. And you know what direction I ended up going, right? Revolutionary directions, because that's just kind of like my instinct at that point. And but then I didn't really see a lot of stuff like in the community. I think educating us anymore because of what happened with COINTELPRO and stuff. But until I went down to the Bay and they had some programs down there. But the hard thing is a lot of people who do it from a working class stance and working class perspective end up losing the spaces they have the programs in, end up losing a lot of stuff because they don't have the resources to be able to give it. And one thing is I hesitate to trust academia to like be the ones to bring this information because a lot of it gets skewed into more of a non.
You shouldn't trust academia.
Just recently they started like being sort of truthful.
A lot of it gets skewed. A lot of it gets skewed.
Never been truthful.
Centuries of racism.
A lot of it gets skewed into like a nonprofit industrial complex, for example. Like it gets skewed into like the conversation. Like the Panthers is now remembered a lot for the nonprofit-y type stuff that everyone wants to put it on. And then they don't realize that the revolutionary standpoint behind that was fundamental for it to be a functional thing that was used to elevate the people. If it wasn't a revolutionary mindset, then all it does is keep people invested in a system that's abusing them. You know what I mean? I think that's like a big thing. The
miseducation is a huge hurdle over reparations as well. Because like some people will probably argue, like, I feel like I don't need reparations. Like I'm doing all right. And like if we're giving it to everybody, do you think Beyonce could really say anything about this? Like, you think Jay-Z about to be like, yeah, I need my reparations? It's like I don't know. Like you said, like getting a slice of the pie, basically. Like
so, like my solution to like all of this in terms of thinking about, okay, how do we tell a more truthful story about like what reparations is, and just like how do we go about communalizing it? For me, like I'm an educator. Like I very really acknowledge that I work in a white supremacist structure. Like I tell BP this all the time. I'm allegedly a biology teacher, but like allegedly. I spend most of my time talking to the youth about abolition, like
doing the good work.
Kid wants to talk about Charles Darwin. Let's talk about scientific racism instead. Like,
we appreciate your
but
service.
Like, I say all that because for me, like, knowing that I work in this like white supremacist structure of education, I know it's that much more important to build outside of those structures and outside of those systems. So for me, what it really comes down to is how are we developing our own political educations and our own freedom schools and our own, like, my ultimate goal would be to actually start building freedom schools. But like, until we start building infrastructure to do those more frequently, it's just about creating those educational spaces outside of both like traditional education and outside of both like the government and other structures that can inhibit us from teaching like our people those things that are most valuable to them. So like telling this narrative, okay, where are Black folks come from? Like why do white folks have all the money? Like tell those really very sensitive questions. Why are they more likely to be landowners? All that kind of stuff that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. Like, so for me, that's part of it. Creating those spaces where we can be, where we can be free and participate in political education that's really going to grow our communities.
I think a lot about how but I think a lot about the slow disappearance of what's called like the second place. It's like you know what I'm talking about, where it's like, you know, you have your home, you have school. It's the third place. Sorry, it's called the third place. And it's like this other place without parental or adult supervision that is really where kids generationally make culture. Right. And like for like I'm like probably the youngest, like the most baby a millennial can get, the most eldest a Gen Z can be, being 26. But like when I was growing up, right, like my third places would have been basketball courts, you know, like the bench, the one green electrical box, outside playing football, barbershop, you know, mall, ice cream shop. When I think about like my sister who's 18, so it's about Gen Z now, and I think about when I watched her and her friends going around, well, when I did, you know, and my sister's like not like necessarily an introvert or anything like that. They were like, well, we don't be going out like that. Like we go to each other's houses and we chill, we watch some TikToks, we might like do a function or whatever. But when I started thinking about it and asking some of my like younger Gen Z friends, like what's the third place in so many words, I was like, the only kind of still traditionally Black third places I think we have left are the barbershop and maybe the rec center. And then when we start thinking about like how we feel about the barbershop and the rec center and the gym, it filters how I kind of think about how we're getting out, how we would talk to these people before they get to higher education, what conversations are already being had. Word to what Feek said about Charlemagne talking about reparations. And you know when niggas are listening to Charlemagne, like when they're trying to get next on the court, or like when they're hanging with their man, or it's all in the barbershop
on their way to work.
Right. So like this is where they're getting that education, which I think is important for us as leftists or just as Black creators trying to educate, saying that like, okay, this is what my friends or what my family are listening to and where they're listening to it, and how can we recreate those spaces and bring back, you know, the ones that we used to have. And I feel like I talked to Philosophy Noir about this before on like Discord about how like y'all do still play out, like y'all all still playing basketball and y'all all still play football. But I don't know. I feel like I don't see kids out on the street like I used to. Yeah. I don't hear people yelling ball. I don't hear
yelling ball. But hey, maybe that means you just gotta change the setting. Maybe it's like
I'm gonna tell you, I still see, you know, I live in the city, and like Atlanta's city proper is weird in that it gotta be at least 60-70% gentrified at this point. There's only like a handful of pockets where the original like city denizens are in their same spaces. But in those spaces, you still see ball being played. And then in the white spaces, you see soccer. And like, so the people are out there, the kids are out there. There's one thing about aging kind of puts you in a weird psychosis. I think, you know, BP is closer to my age. Richie, I don't know how old you are, but everybody else is in their like 20s or like closer to their 20s in their 40s. But like, I think Lil, you're probably experiencing it. You're probably starting to experience it, where you're starting to recognize the distance between you and younger people. So I don't think what you're saying is, I'm just saying to say, I guarantee you the kids are still out there. It just doesn't look like it looked when you were in the space, if that makes sense.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know.
In conclusion, you're
That's
aging.
possible too.
Right. In conclude, I'm old as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm giving
all
energy
the
right
time. I'm
now.
around 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds all the time in school. So like I really do feel a major disconnect. So I think color mind, the thing that I would say, like, I think there probably are people still doing all those, creating those third spaces. But I think there's other ways we can start creating those too in more creative ways. Like maybe it's in a Fortnite game or like on Discord, like all those, what y'all are doing as like social media and content creators. Maybe it is on like YouTube and TikToks. Like somebody was showing me something about somebody who's doing a Black History TikTok. And I'm like, you know what? I could do that. I'm not on TikTok now, but I could do a abolition and anime TikTok. I could do all these things for folks. Like they inspired me. I haven't done it yet, but
we need to, you know, this is what I believe, and like I'm open to criticism for it, but we need to make use of the tools we have in our hand in terms of like this access to these platforms. And we need to be willing to be malleable in having our content be palatable to the population we want to reach. You know what I'm saying? So you need to do a video on how, I don't know, My Hero Academia interrogates police, the falls of policing. Because I saw somebody say that on a TikTok or something.
Wait, MD, I'm such a nerd. I could go in on abolition and anime, like
and I heard that, but it's so ill. Like I heard that Deku's character arc is realizing he's part of a bad system recently. And it's like, yo, that's an opportunity. Somebody needs to make that video so that young weebs and young nerds can see that narrative. That's why I talked about Attack on Titan being low-key fascist in the Manosphere video, because I wanted people to recognize that connection. And because I don't feel like talking about actual Nazis and the Holocaust in my videos. You know what I'm saying?
Depressing.
Like the Black Panther video where I talk about Pan-Africanism and like the failures of it, and then BB following up saying, yeah, but not really, nigga. like that's what we need, that as much as we need actual books.
Facts.
Because you know what I'm saying? We need that as much as we need. You know, it has to be a multi-pronged, multifaceted attack.
Facts.
He started making TikToks and said,
I did. I got to make more.
That is not all bad.
I do not want to make these shits. I fucking hate making TikToks. I've only made like 3, and it's like only 2 of them got posted. Anyway,
I would just
Richie,
take clips from your videos. That's what I usually do.
No,
like good points.
They need the TikTok has all these. The one thing I tell y'all is that the algorithms want a thing. They want a specific type of look, especially TikTok. TikTok especially wants a certain type of look and vibe, or will not work. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. Yeah. So, but that's a different conversation.
Which I'm
you're for sure right.
Yeah. Do you got any thoughts, Lua? I know you've been kind of quiet.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess I have thoughts on like how we can like try to create these spaces online. Like I think people like talk about, I definitely think reading is really important, and like we should all be reading. And also like kind of like with what Peek's saying, like I mean, I think ideally I would like to put the stuff that we're reading like in an entertaining format where we're like getting like kind of the most important information in there. And like, you know, like Peek, with what you're saying, like making, like talking about Attack on Titan versus like straight up Nazis. You know, like that definitely like is an important facet of like reaching people and being like, no, like look at this stuff, because like that's what people are connecting to right now, and so we can like talk about those things in that way. So yeah, I'm just kind of like listening and kind of agreeing with what's being said.
Yeah, I think we've created a pretty decent space. Like I don't remember YouTube. Well, my YouTube back when was a lot different, but I don't remember the space of YouTube really existing like this, like what 3-4 years ago.
It didn't.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother. I'm like, I talked to Lewis in a video I got coming up where I talk about like semi-insidious fact that this space, it feels like we had to like force a square peg into a round hole to make this space viable. You know what I'm saying? And we're still not getting the I think attention and algorithmic love that we deserve. But also I think all of us would agree we don't want that many we don't want to be beholden to white audiences. And so like we have to kind of start rethinking how to make our content. Like going into next year, I'm gonna start like this video is a 10 out of 10. This damn Christmas video I just dropped. This shit ain't hitting them numbers. But I knew it wasn't gonna hit them numbers. But
I thought you were funny.
I thought it was, but you know, it's not for the audience I've built. You know what I'm saying? I built an audience on an hour, 15-minute long, deeply analytical videos. What I'm realizing is that if I want to be serious about spreading certain ideas and messages, then I gotta at least mix it up. My heart is with the long ass videos. but my head is like, nigga, if you want to really be about, you know, earning your presence and doing better with what you got, you're gonna have to start doing more you know, shorter stuff that's less, you know, insidery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Man, no, I feel that though. I mean, see, for me, I've always like wanted to frame it as like the longer. I have like these feature ones, like the last one I did was gun control, but debunked, and then I have more of like almost like a TV show type vibe for the other ones. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I just come through and it's chill, whatever. But shit, I feel like when it comes to YouTube specifically, that the algorithm like it hates our phenotypes first off, and then like I would never want to like cater like you were saying, I never want to cater to a white audience. I don't mind having audiences white, but you're gonna have to deal with what I'm about to say, and if not, just go ahead and subscribe because I'm not gonna change it for you. But that's just like climbing uphill. You know what I mean? It's like going up a hill while people are throwing boulders down at you. You know what I mean? It's like pretty fucking hard.
Right. It sucks that in order to like, I feel like we all have a common interest in really more cultivating like an audience that looks more like us. But in order for the algorithm to even get the people that look like us, we need to have already proved ourselves with like this white audience.
Yeah.
Because YouTube doesn't keep. I mean, they don't. Google does not keep race data on YouTube accounts, but like they can tell from like certain demographic tendencies, right? And I had covered in a video before about algorithm bias and like YouTube's issues with processing the blackface, and like the fact that even there, like their AI sees a darker photo, and therefore will deprioritize that if something has a lighter photo of the same content. Is like, what are like, you know, what are you supposed to do? And that's on a like, it's not because they don't like black people, right? It's because they're like, oh, like this wasn't lit well. So if it's not lit well, like no one's gonna click the thumbnail. So you see how you can create a capitalistic or a business reason for doing something that is inevitably racial bias. And
sorry. What you're saying, like, oh my God, I'm getting chills. There's so many things. And the thing that I've gotten access to rooms and conversations from my growth where it's like there was actually I can't. I'll just say, what can I say? YouTube is like this. Basically, we got like, imagine cavemen getting fire and not really knowing how it works or what to do with it. That is YouTube and most social media right now. Like as a species, as people in general, like white folks, these rich tech people, Elon Musk, they all know that this is very powerful, but they don't really know what to do with it or how it works fully. They only know how to extract capital in these very crude ways. You know what I'm saying? And what you find, like I'll say this. There was a conversation I had within a room with people who could hopefully do something about it. where I was explaining how hard it is to make content as a Black creator in a completely biased, a white biased environment. And it's also biased against queer people, trans people, etc. It's explicitly seeking
Facts.
one particular framing of what success is, that light photo versus dark photo. And the thing that's most frustrating, I know everybody in here has felt this, is like putting all your work into a video, uploading that motherfucker, and having to be age restricted. Bro. Because you said the N-word. And it's like, nigga, what? Like,
I am the N-word.
Like, right. Like, what you're telling me is that I have to follow the same rules on this platform as white supremacists. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, that doesn't make sense. And so there's so many, I said it to say that there's like so many avenues or aspects to the problem beyond just like the click-through rate that limits the possibility of us being here. So the fact that we are here, that in the last year, I think Drew's about to hit 100K. Foreign's probably gonna hit it before next year is over. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us have within a year's time gotten channels rolling. You know what I'm saying? And it is a dance, like a literal dance that sometimes you feel some type of way when you know you have to bring that white audience to the table in order to make sure your Black audience gets fed. But I think at the end of the day, the opportunity for culturally shifting dialogue and discourse is important. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a matter of hopefully, making it worth the effort.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a tiny digression, so I want to make sure I don't cut anybody off.
We already digressed.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was a digression. Oh well. I don't know if any of y'all watched the streamies in the past couple of weeks. Exactly, nobody fucking did, right? It's YouTube's.
I thought it was Twitch. See,
exactly, it's YouTube. It was on YouTube. They had a YouTuber post it on their channel. Lots of interesting like YouTuber things about it that would be more interesting to talk about not on a live, but like it made me think about how even though we're like the most popular YouTubers, like they probably had like over 1 billion subscribers between all of them that were there. It was still corny. Like our award show still corny. I say this to say that I think a part of growing like in reclaiming like that sort of Black left space, like there's often ideas thrown around doing like an award show or like how do we get visibility to the people that we know are doing that good work. It is gonna make the pipeline easier to get to different faces. And then I'm like, okay, so doing the award show. Well, let's start doing some nominees, let's start doing some videos a year. And then I realized, like, does that just end up perpetuating the same hierarchical, like, not cabal. I don't want to use the cabal, but like whatever.
Please don't. Not right now.
No. A group, like authority group, like making culture. Because I think the thing that frustrates me the most is coming back to the thing, like, how do we get people? How do we show? There's plenty of creators like us already. How do we get people to know who's they can watch and lead them down the rabbit hole as easily as possible?
Yeah, and it's weird because like Vic said, these people are biased, and you can't even explain to them why like every algorithm having a Ben Shapiro video or a Matt what's his face, the new guy, Matt, what's the one guy, Matt Walsh. I gotta like at Matt Walsh ad. I'm watching all y'all. I don't know how that made it through
because they pay. He's paying for ad space on our content. There's like a process you have to go through to like keep it from happening. I keep forgetting that I need to do that, but
I'm about to say you about to be mad, FD, because I got a PragerU advertisement on your last video.
PragerU videos be making me tight. Like
they're all over. They want us to know there. They want to. Oh my god, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut somebody off.
No, that was pretty much all I had to say about it. Like,
So I want to
What would reparations in the YouTube sphere look like to you?
Algorithmic boosts.
Yeah, put my video on the top page.
I actually want one day a month where I get to choose my spot on everybody's front page, and I get it for like, I get it for a whole 24 hours. Yeah,
yeah. I really like.
Oh, that was a joke. But if you can do that.
I want you to require every like white YouTuber with above 1 million subscribers to have to shout me out at the beginning of every video. PewDiePie. Oh no, actually not PewDiePie.
No. Instead of Raid Shadow Legend ads, they have to do ads for
my channel. Yeah. Actually, you have to automatically subscribe them to my channel and take their card information to my Patreon. Like no asses.
YouTube would never do it because YouTube. The problem, the thing that we have to like contend with is that we are talking about cultural change, and so their goal is to make money, and they put too many niggas on their platform, they're gonna stop making money. if insert white tween here opens up their YouTube app and sees negrescence followed by.
It's like white teen. It's like white teen parent might freak out when they see all these black dudes and folks on their
kids' iPad. They're like,
so now let's talk about capitalism being abolished. Like what?
Yeah, Mom, what are calling that shit at dinner? Oh no, we gonna have a revolution on it.
So one of the things that is that we're all still part of the culture industry. You know what I'm saying? Like BreadTube in and of itself is what the thing I'm realizing is a very insidious mechanism of the culture industry where, you know, we had like, so there were all these there were leftist creators making content for a while on YouTube. You know, you had the first like SJW era, which was, you know, very mild by today's standards. And then, like in that post-Trump, you know, post-alt-right era, you have the rise of PhilosophyTube and ContraPoints, etc., who are out also relatively mild, but they became BreadTube. They didn't become BreadTube on purpose. They didn't seek to become BreadTube. The algorithm said, "Yo, we got a handful of attractive, talented white folks that are making people sit down and watch." And the algorithm pushed an audience to that space. And what we have to be critical of, and I love all these kinds of creators, right? We have to be critical of the fact that their success and influence like that has reverberated since then is in and of itself a process of reifying the status quo. Of
so many ways too,
right? Reifying the status quo and like, you know, making it so all these BreadTube kids and young people and young and adults that maybe would have been agitators, maybe would have hit the streets, maybe would have joined a abolition group or started organizing. Instead, they got to kind of get a cathartic release watching ContraPoints debunk Ben Shapiro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a reason why Ben Shapiro plays so well on the platform, because that is way more that's way safer and way more commercially and socially viable than BP's video about the truth about gun control. You know what I'm saying?
Like also I gotta say, like, one of the things too is it's so many levels to it, because besides like obviously the race elements of the situation, like the niggas calling shit BreadTube just really ain't BreadTube, because BreadTube came from the idea of conquest of bread, right? It came from like radical politics, and then they're like liberalism being portrayed as BreadTube is kind of frustrating, because it's like, yo, liberalism is actually right wing, bro. I'm like, I'm not even playing on that spectrum y'all use, but it's definitely not like liberation theology in any shape, form, or facet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it gets extremely frustrating from that, and then like, you know, it just waters a lot of shit down that's really important, because like you said, like people getting catharsis through they're battling these cultural issues. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what they are. Like you know, the culture wars that they put it, right? These different like personality issues versus the tangible things that are pressing us, right? That's why I've been a big thing on, like, why I'm not a big fan of Itpull, for example. The tangible things that are pressing us are what should be focused on. Instead, we talk about who said some stupid shit. I'm like, nigga, we're humans. You know how much humans say stupid shit? All the time.
Literally.
All the time. Yeah, exactly. 90% of the time. And even the most intelligent, most accountable motherfuckers are going to say some stupid shit sometimes. So, like, there's just so much stupid shit we could just focus on versus, like, all right, put that aside. What is the material ramifications of these different actions? What are the things we got to change to be able to liberate ourselves and liberate each other? Should be what's focused on, but it's not. It's like, oh, how do we, look how racist this movie was. Look how, like, I mean, and I'll play through too. I'm not gonna lie. I have like the racist reviews. They never do very good. People get mad at me because I always have Richie come on as the white man and do like,
it's actually great.
It's like pretend like he's a white dude saying pro anti-black shit. Like, oh man, I love the white dude CIA agent in fucking Black Panther. He's great. You know what I mean? But, no, Rich's voice is way better than mine.
I have a whole persona called the white man.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get it.
But no, it's because that's not entertaining. And at the end of the day, right? Like we don't even receive news anymore. I don't know how, if you guys are podcast people and if you guys listen to the gray area, but they had an episode where they were talking about like the attention economy, right? Which is like the new economy that we're in, what we are all participating in. And it made me think about how like we don't even really consume the news anymore, as more as like the news is like kind of like a carrot dangled in front of us to make us keep scrolling. Like if I have to be really honest about it, and this, to be fair, my dad could tell me like this is how we felt reading the newspaper. I don't fucking know. But like I feel like when I'm scrolling on Twitter and then going on TikTok and then even watching like a video essay while doing my work at the same time, I'm like, okay, I am collecting facts that I will inevitably talk about that somehow will shape my worldview. I'm not really sure how. I don't really know why I encounter the stuff that I encounter, the bigger context of all of it, but it gives me stuff to say, like when I'm around people. And that's kind of how I feel like most people feel about the news, or at least how when I am not critically thinking about like the stuff that I consume, how I feel about the news is just stuff to give my character more stuff to do this episode. Instead of like, which means you always need new shit, right? So it's harder to talk about like those mundane and like questions you have to keep going back to, like how do we get everybody bread? How do we like make a national metro rail station? How do we do these very unsexy things that are unsexy mostly because you're not going to get mad or happy about it. You're just going to be like, damn, I'm really glad y'all, after 10 years, y'all built that train. Somebody gets to use it. And that's not going to get no clicks. So,
I mean,
complex. Oh, go ahead, Lou.
I definitely think Itpull stuff actually does relate to your material conditions, like how things affect you psychologically is like a part of your material reality. Like people, like I think why I like the Wretched of the Earth so much was like he talks a lot about like the psychology of things and how things affect you psychologically. Like I think that's just really important. Like there's like the material conditions of like me being Black and like the way people, there's like certain things are prevented at times, certain resources are at times prevented. Like even what we're talking right now with like YouTube, like we're literally like there's like literally like an obstacle in us being Black, in us being put in front of people. And then there's all these like actual like material things that are a consequence of racism and that affect us. But then there's just also like the psychological trauma that happens, like when you're like watching a movie, for example, and like a movie like represents Black people in a racist way. Like there's a way where it's like, and I might be talking about like the wrong thing that you're talking about, BP. So correct me if I'm like just talking about the wrong thing, but like there's a way where it's like that there's like a cultural narrative about Black people and what it means to be Black that is not written by Black people, and that really affects you psychologically, and that's very real. It's definitely not everything.
Black Panther is a good example.
Yeah, and look, to clarify, when I say id pool, I'm not just talking about the fact that our identities, right? Our identities are very real. White supremacy is very real. Racism is really very real. But it becomes like these dialogues about what the last asshole said. You know what I mean? Versus
Mhm.
the reality of like, well, why does it affect us psychologically? Is it because Ben Shapiro said another dumbass thing? Is it because
Mhm.
that one lobster dude, I forgot his name, says some dumbass shit?
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
Lost.
Oh,
Oh man, I'm so
later.
happy I forgot who Jordan Peterson was for a second.
Hey, why did you
Damn,
even beat it over me?
You fucked it up. I was doing good.
or is it because of the material structures that functions around us it like hit us from every fucking angle that then traumatize and affect our mental health? And I think it's more that than like, oh, these assholes saying some stupid shit again. Like, because I feel like if we didn't have the structures of oppression surrounding us and putting weight on us every fucking day, then we look at them dudes as just the dickheads they are. We'd be like, all right, whatever, dummy. Like, go over there with it. Go over there with it.
And I think the other thing, though, to BP, to your point with that, with the folks like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, it's like obviously the stuff that they say is utterly ridiculous and nonsensical. But it's not just that they say those things; it's that society, white supremacist structures, empower them, and it's like it's a very profitable thing. Like folks like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, like all those people, they literally don't believe 90% of the stuff that they say, but like because it feeds into a system that benefits them, they're gonna like make a shit ton of money off of it and just like not think about it. So like to like for me, what you're saying that kind of resonates too, because like the thing that frustrates me, it's not even the fact that people say ridiculous ass shit. It's the fact that they say ridiculous ass nonsensical shit, and then they make large, profound amounts of profit off of it just to say it. That shows you like how deeply ingrained like anti-blackness is, and like all these other things, all these other colonial tools are in our society, where it becomes way more profitable for people to like aid in the oppression and in the destruction and harm of Black and brown folks than it does to like tell a modicum of truth or to have a reasonable argument or to make a not ridiculously outlandish point.
Yeah, and the wild part is you can do it as a Black person. Like
facts, Candace
Yeah.
Owens.
You probably making more.
Candace Owens. BP,
Well, I definitely.
Black dude, the cowboy. I forgot his name. You showed me that one time.
See, I don't even want to know his name.
Don't even.
Because
I don't
we're
even know
gonna
what-
put him in the algorithm. He's gonna be on our screens tomorrow. Lou, you about to say something?
See, you two
Yeah, I
spoke
mean,
about it. Yeah, sorry.
I definitely like agree like with id pool stuff in reference to, like Ben Shapiro or like Matt Walsh is a bit different, because I do think what he said has like directly fueled the Club Q shooting. So there's a way where like Matt Walsh like hits like really harshly for me, because I think he actually really had a hand in that. But for people like Ben Shapiro or even Jordan Peterson, I do wonder like, why are we even talking about them? But they say silly stuff, but it becomes about like, I think there's also an issue, and I might be being tangential. I think there's like also an issue where people like heavily focus on, where white people heavily focus on people like Ben Shapiro, because they can be like, oh, we're not like them. Like those are the real racists, and it's like you yourself have a lot of racism to unpack, and like you get points for trying, and that's great. But like, let's not pretend like you likely don't have a lot of racism to unpack. So I feel like a lot of those people to me also stand as like a symbol of something to make white people feel better about themselves, or white lefts feel better themselves. And that's kind of what irks me about how we talk about them so much. Because it's just like, I don't know. To me, they're just kind of like silly people.
Yeah.
To them,
to
if
be
you
clear,
ever a clan, you ain't racist.
To be clear though, I just threw them out as like one of the millions of names I could have thrown out. I just popped. They weren't like specifically on my radar per se. I do want to say though, I think there is one thing is I said on my Mille Lacs Sunday was there is a thing around transphobia that I feel like is different, right? I'm watching transphobia have a different effect than most id pool issues of where like actual fucking violence manifesting, versus when it comes to white supremacy and racism, for example. I don't think these assholes saying shit makes it more likely that I'm going to be lynched. Living in America makes it likely that I'm going to be living in this fucking country.
That part right there,
and whether they say it or not isn't going to really change that. You know what I mean? And so, But I feel like when I do want to concede, especially when it comes to transphobia, I feel like that is having an actual material impact, and like specifically, and it feels like that's been a little different. But overall, I mean, for most of the things, I don't feel like those have direct impacts versus they're just a manifestation from people who are already doing the white supremacist shit. They're manifestations from people who are already doing the fuck shit, and then they just like speak it out loud. Versus, I feel like transphobia, it's so culturally accepted still that it actually like. Versus people, even white supremacists don't want to be called white supremacists. You feel me? Like, but people call
motherfuckers be openly transphobic and get like a whole extra Netflix special.
which is exactly why they pivoted that way. Yeah.
You know, I think to kind of like to marry the two, there's identity politics, and then there's id poll content. Is I think what it comes down to. Like there's real conversations because I am entertained by I'm not entertained by Ben Shapiro videos. Like them shits are I have no clue why people are watching those videos.
Nah, it's nonsense.
But at least I've watched a few Jordan Peterson videos and found them fascinating on some level because it's
the lobster stuff is
well, not the lobster stuff, but like the anti like there's one creator I don't want to put them out there because their video hasn't dropped, but I cannot wait for their Jordan Peterson video because I know the creativity within that realm is going to work, right? But then there's also the lazy Jordan Peterson video because he said something else stupid. You see what I'm saying? Like that, and then there's an algorithmic push for that because I know if I drop a Jordan Peterson video, it will be 1 out of 10. If I put his face on the thumbnail and make a face like this, you know what I'm saying, on the thumbnail next to it, and like that shit will get clicks. And so that's like a multifaceted problem. One is the algorithm has hacked the brains of the white liberals and moderates in the community that do the most clicking. So that's number one. Number two is like the white liberals and moderates have such an underdeveloped capacity for analysis and criticism of culture that it's only the slam dunk contest that can get those clicks. And so part of me celebrates I said in my last video, I celebrate Mooncat, who like I called her the Dominique Wilkins of the dunk video. You know what I'm saying? For anybody not old enough to get that reference, he battled Michael Jordan. But I don't call nobody Michael Jordan because I feel like that's just I don't want to start no fights with other people. I say Dominique Wilkins. So like I wish that could be done uncritically because it's just entertaining to watch a shitty person get dunked on in media. Like that's just entertaining. But there also needs to be a greater effort, especially from some of these bigger channels, to be more interrogative of how this type of content continues to be a part of the culture industry. You know what I'm saying? Like how many, I can think of a couple people. It's like you don't need another Jordan Peterson video. No shade to Big Joe. I love that he made a tweet. It was like his 5th Jordan Peterson video. And he tweeted about it because it was a 10 out of 10. He was like, actually, this is actually very much a relief. I'm tired of talking about this guy. I'm gonna see if I can find it. You know what I'm saying? I need more of that energy from the community, from at least the white community. And to be fair, whatever, right? We gotta also be more challenging to the like very comfort of like Black excellence and like Black liberals and Black moderates who are not like my least watched videos, my Obama videos this year. And I think it's because, and I was mild, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's because a lot of Black folks wasn't here for that. I think a lot of my Black audience is like, ooh, we ain't ready for that, FD.
I didn't know that you dropped an Obama video.
I didn't either.
Did you all see it?
I love that.
I'm gonna have the algorithm suppressing that because I would love to see an Obama video from you.
That's a great video.
I dropped 2 of them shits, and them
Every
shits.
time
I had no idea.
I'm so surprised because I've shown my dad those Obama videos, and like he's been like, yeah, he said a lot of stuff there. He wasn't wrong. he wasn't wrong. And my dad has Obama plates. So like I never I'm
That was
the
a hard pill.
algorithm might have
Right.
put the black face on me, show.
And I don't get that because for me, it's like I've had a very different experience. A lot of niggas in the hood knew Obama was full of shit from get. Like they were like, nigga, this nigga's. Well, first off, he's a politician, so we already know. Second off, like Reverend Wright. Like after Reverend Wright happened, every nigga in the hood was like, yeah, you a buster, bro. Like you ain't gonna ride with us because you can't even ride with the motherfucker who married you. Like what do you mean? Like,
Damn.
That's true. VP's facts.
Nah, playing this bread tube game, you have to pay your sin of the Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson video at some point. Like it's just, I feel like everyone has to do at least one.
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Well, if I
Like,
ever
are
do
you
one,
really?
it's going to be about how annoying it is that white people keep on talking about these people to make themselves feel like
Anti Ben
because
Shapiro
black
video.
people ever
We
talk
should do
about-
that for Black History for our Black History Month event. We'll just all do videos on Jordan Peterson and just a Jordan Peterson industrial complex supercut.
Supercut.
Yeah, fuck with the algorithm for real.
Yeah, like I don't know what to do with this. All these niggers are talking about. I cannot find Big Joel's Twitter. I don't know. Anyway, oh, you know what? He got off Twitter. Fuck, I forgot about that.
Let's talk about that. I should not say that, but so yeah, what would y'all do if Twitter died?
I mean, I think I would be fine personally.
I think I would be a happier person. I keep on thinking about deleting my Twitter, but I'm just like, I'm addicted to it, so I can't.
I give space for people that are not just ready to abandon Twitter. Bellamy made a comment a little while ago. Like for a lot of people, especially under COVID, this is something I struggle with as a old elder millennial, as like the year before Gen X starts, right? Mm-hmm. Millennial. This type of interaction doesn't feel like real life to me because it's not native. I didn't start doing this shit till I was an adult. I got on Facebook at like 24. You know what I'm saying? And I hold space for the fact that for me, Twitter is just this cancerous place where people do silly stuff. And then sometimes there's, titties. But like for a lot of people, like Twitter is organizing, Twitter is community, Twitter is social outreach. My cousin, I posted her GoFundMe. She has cancer and it went up a couple $1,000s. Like that's valuable. And so although like there's a smug part of me that wants to be like, we should all just leave Twitter at one time and show them, there's also like, we have to be more critical. Like maybe we should be actively fighting for Twitter or fighting for a viable replacement.
I was gonna say, I don't know about fighting for Twitter. I still get you. I don't know if I do hold space for my friends who are more online or who have developed more online and like especially on Twitter. But then I also just think like, well, the first time I got a social media, I got Facebook when I was 12. Oh. And like, I had a MySpace before that. And like all these platforms are dying and we still found other places. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Like Twitter might die, but for Twitter specifically, that's what I guess I keep coming back to. It's such a basic idea that like, would it be that hard for everybody to find another place to do their live journaling?
Well, I think one of the things that I really appreciated about Twitter was like during the uprising, that's when I really saw like that there's not like it is like it's a really, really fast way to disseminate information in a way that I was not seeing on other social media platforms. Like there would be something like that would like that the police would do. They'd like tear gas you that day. And then they'd be like, oh yeah, like these people are just like rioting and stuff. And then like the videos on Twitter would just show the police just like tear gassing peaceful protesters. And yeah, that just kind of like, you're not going to get, there was nowhere that I saw like the truth happening. And on Twitter, you knew it was the truth because there was just videos at the whole day. And so
big tool for independent media.
That's something that I'm like, wow, I don't want to lose that. Everything else on Twitter, I would like to get rid of. But that,
no, thank you. That's a very good point, actually.
Yeah. Lou, to your point, like BP can testify to this. Like for a lot of the organizing work we've done with Fight Toxic Prisons and other stuff, like Twitter has been crucial. Like whenever we've done phone zaps and stuff like that, like and just getting information. And even when BP was in Atlanta, like we got like information from a lot of our comrades by DMing folks on Twitter and stuff. So like I'm not on it very often or anything, but like I think
when you use
like,
it, you use
definitely
it.
does have it. It definitely has some good parts to it for sure. And
I
it's
remember-
definitely been very helpful in organizing spaces.
Also, another end of it too, I think it's the last text-based social media that's popping, and that might go bye-bye after that. You know what I mean? That's the one thing, because like Facebook's dead. Facebook's dead as fuck. Which
Not
is
to
good
me.
riddance. Good riddance.
I miss Facebook so much. It's because I'm old.
BP, it's still alive and kicking for a certain group of people.
Yeah, for all my
You gotta have
friends.
the
That's
right
all
friends.
y'all.
Be in the
Y'all
right
like it.
groups.
I love
I
Facebook's
it.
still
mean,
popping
I
sometimes.
get good
I
memes
love-
on Facebook, but
I love
Your
the
Facebook
genre
groups
of
be
black
hitting.
auntie Facebook meme. Like I like culture.
Facebook is only alive for toxicity, all right? If it isn't for like beefing, you only come on there to beef. That's it.
I get the
Well,
good.
that's
I don't
most
beef
social
anyone.
media.
No, you beef on Facebook. I've seen you on Facebook, and you just say stuff that's like controversial. But for me, Facebook is all about the
Not caught on
memes,
4K.
and I see like the funniest memes. I don't see any memes on Twitter. I see so many memes on Facebook that make me laugh.
Yeah, same.
And they're all from Twitter, but yeah.
Yeah, they usually from.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of them are from Twitter.
Yeah, Facebook is where I think the older millennials and Gen Xers are chilling on Facebook.
Facts.
The
Yeah, I'll say
Z's
that.
and the alphas are all on Twitter and now TikTok. And like, don't get me wrong, like I miss Facebook because it wasn't as algorithmically driven. Like that's what that's why Facebook is probably dying, is because it's not algorithmically driven. Like the thing we got to come back to bring it all the way back around to reparations and like getting the word out is we have to figure out what we're going to do about these algorithms, because the truth is here. The truth is like floating around in cyberspace in these conversations, but the algorithm decides who hears it. And as long as these platforms are algorithmically driven, like, so on one end, it means that you can say something dope and it might hit a couple of 100,000 people. Shout out to Frank Laundry. I think Frank Laundry had like 10,000 subscribers.
Now they got like 40 or something.
Yeah, now he's like 40, and like, cause that video he did, dope ass video. Like, I want to be clear, like, to anybody trying to grow, the algorithm can tell if your video is dope. You know what I'm saying? It can tell the level of effort you like, the production value in it. And so you go watch that Frank Laundry video, and that boy's out there in 5 different locations, like fucking Stanley Kubrick cuts. You know what I'm saying? Cinematography. Like, there's a reason why that got to maybe like almost 200, 300,000 views. My video that went viral, I was sitting in one spot talking about Bo Burnham. That's the flip side.
The duality.
It's the duality. You know what I'm saying? But the point I was trying to make is that, so the algorithm will make that happen, right? So a lot of people got to see that message because the algorithm said, yo, this is dope. I want people to see it. But as these algorithms get more and more in control, as motherfuckers like Elon Musk say, I'm going to use Twitter to quell independent media and to limit the reach of truth seeking by people who are seeking liberation, it becomes dangerous. And like, going back to reparations, like, reparation need to be the algorithm. Like when you said YouTube reparations, like real talk, I'm gonna send an email and see if I can have a conversation with somebody. Like,
listen, I'm here for it. Actually,
no, I would love that.
Well, just wait, because after you do that, your channel is gonna like get all these missing subscribers.
Mysteriously die.
That's like,
I got this white rapper video in the back pocket. As soon as I get two 7 out of 10s in the row, like, it's time for that white rapper video. Put Eminem and White Drake. I can't ever remember White Drake's name, but them both going on the thumbnail. I'll be back.
White Drake.
You know what I'm talking about. I don't remember his name, but
I'm not even about to say his name anymore. I just feel better just calling him White Drake. But it's also funny, like, from I guess I'm just an econ person now, but from like the profit motive of YouTube, right? Don't lose this point. Like we talk about free market, right? Or liberals and libertarians love, and people on the right like talk about like free market and like, hey, you know, don't be mad that your videos aren't getting any play, like just make better videos, or like don't be mad that you're not getting reach, you know, like people get reach. And you realize like going back to what Feek said about Facebook used to be chronological, and then they mysteriously started dying once they went algorithmic. Why did they have to go algorithmic? Why did they have to go to an algorithm? Because none of these apps actually make any money. Like they're like, to be fair, you know, like social media is brand fucking new. It's changed our entire species. And like they were promised like, hey, look, we're gonna get this shit out for free, connect a bunch of people, we're gonna make you a lot of money somehow. And so they give them a bunch of money. And now they're not making any money anymore. So if the only way they make money is through ads, that's why it's not even a question to go algorithmic, because I need to keep people on here longer. Mm-hmm. The free market solution to all that would be, right, to offer both. To just say, yeah, you can have your fucking algorithm. You can have your fucking algorithm, or you can go chronologically, but then we'd all just go chronologically for most of the time, and like they would then have to go bankrupt. So sometimes I feel like, oh, why? This is a very simple thing that people are like, why didn't Twitter do this? And then when you think about it and you look into it, you're like, because they're on like a house of cards and they're not making any money, which is why they have to. This is probably the least worst, not the least worst thing, but this is how they have to make their app shittier so it can be around longer.
Make it shittier so it can survive. It's like exactly. It's like the opposite of Darwinism. It's like, look, this is survival of the shittiest. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna piss everybody off. Because I can tell you, since I stopped doing Facebook when I started making content, because I had a stalker, and I would pop up every once in a while and immediately see things that piss me off. I'm like, oh, Facebook understands I ain't been here in a while. And so it's trying to annoy the fuck out of me by showing me, Facebook, you know I don't like this nigga. Why are you showing me this nigga post? Yeah, I got to get out of here, y'all. I don't know. I don't expect anybody else to leave, but I got to go.
All right. It's been a great conversation. It's my first live stream, so thank you, BP, for having me on high key.
All right, well, we got another 15. If anybody want to chill for the last 15, well, I know FD got a family take care of and shit. You know what I mean? So today was the long day. You're my third talk of the day. Oh shit! Damn.
Oh, wow.
Working.
Yeah. So
damn, getting it.
Love y'all, man. Peace and blessings to everybody in the chat. I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Go watch my video. It's 10 out of 10. I can't get the check short. That white hip hop video gonna come before that black socialism video. We don't get the All right, y'all. Peace and blessings.
Peace. All right, peace. See, I'm still upset. I need to get on that white hip hop video. I'm just saying. Come on. Oh man. I already roasted Eminem, but like,
damn. I was gonna bring that up, BP. Like, the Eminem video you did was pretty dope.
I like that video too.
Man, M's the issue. And here's the thing: is I used to defend. I'll be real with you. I used to defend Eminem having a space in hip hop, and then his whole shit with Lord Jamar, I was like, all right, fuck you, you lost it. You lost the pass. You lost the pass, my guy. Like, you did too much.
What you think of Mac Miller? What you thought of Mac Miller? I don't know what you use.
I wasn't a fan, but I don't know if I felt like he was as much a culture vulture as I feel like a lot of other white rappers are. I mean, I got some, like, don't get me wrong, I got a white homie like I rap with, I fuck with, is cool, but I'm very picky about like who I'll fuck with and accept as part of hip hop, right? If you ain't with our people as a whole, I don't want you rapping. Like in the story, like, you know what I mean? I don't want you rapping. If you ain't fuck with our people and you just like, it's cool now, you shouldn't rap, period. If you don't have no awareness of like our struggle, don't rap, bro. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I wasn't
a Mac fan, but he seemed like he was around the culture to me.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like I can't speak for, I definitely became a bigger fan after he passed, but like after the album he dropped right before he passed into the next one, I was like, wow, I'm really enjoying this white guy's music. And I was like, oh, like Mac Miller's like not like a joke college rapper anymore. But his company has always been like he was raised in Philly. Like his company has been the same people he featured with. So that goes into a deeper thing. Like now that I think critically more, like I don't know how them niggas think, if them niggas with the cause per se, right? But you know, he is a student of, he's that white archetype that's like student of the game, rather like which I give more grace to than like a Macklemore or Like, even,
Fucking Macklemore.
let me not
Oh,
start.
bro.
Let me not start talking about Logic.
see,
But
he
you
got
know,
some real
Don't
good
mention
lyrics.
Macklemore.
Bro, you don't even know, dog. I do not like it. Like I'm like one step away from that motherfucker. Like I know people who fuck with that dude and that, or used to fuck with that dude. That dude's fucking weird. You whiny ass mother, we're fucking weirdo, bro.
but nah,
like,
but Mac is cool. I really would give his like last two albums like a listen. Like like I know death just make everything seem rosier in the aftermath, but like
Yeah.
nah, he was on the way. He really found his sound.
I mean,
by the
I
end.
only listened to his stuff when he was like, the only stuff that I'm familiar with Mac Miller is that college shit. I'm like, nah, like it was definitely not my thing. But
Yeah.
some
That's interesting.
some of
but
them
if
are
you
cool.
say he got some other stuff out there,
Oh,
Check out
like
Self-Care.
you
I
like
that
like
song.
Flying Lotus, like Earl, like MF Doom, like you.
Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah.
They
definitely.
listen to the
Yeah.
they listen to the last two Mac Miller stuff. You like some Kid Cudi. You like
Excuse me.
being a sad boy, but also being a sad boy, but also smoking a lot of weed. Go listen to some Mac Miller.
Yeah.
Oh shit, they shout out the homie right now.
Yeah, Sly. Yeah, BP tell me Sly is pretty dope ass. Yeah, like,
Oh yeah.
hell,
If y'all haven't seen Anarchist Jurisdiction, go put it in. It's with me, Sly, and Jadai. Go check it out. Just turn it out for everybody who's listening.
fun facts. I've actually showed that music video to like all of my classes in school multiple times.
Here's the thing: is here's a person that I don't hate that I know a lot of other people hate. That's a white rapper, which is Russ. Like because Russ is.
You're a Russ fan?
I'm not a Rush fan. I don't hate him though. I do bump some of this shit sometimes, but he says some shit that's on point on his stances and shit. So like, all right, you all right.
Wait. Okay,
You know what I mean?
what's your opinion on Logic?
Oh man, no.
Okay, then you're inconsistent.
Look,
That don't make sense. That don't
Hey,
match out.
did y'all know?
It's not
Did y'all know
because
that
Logic is-
Did y'all know Logic was black?
Yeah,
I know.
Logic's biracial. He's not black,
Yeah,
he's biracial.
He's like he's mixed. Yeah. No, I'm not saying Logic can't rap because he's white. I'm saying Logic is annoying and he doesn't shut the fuck up.
But I'm saying so
I can
is
see why
Russ,
you don't like
and Russ
Logic.
and Logic basically are
Two sides of the same
Logic,
coin.
Logic's
No.
a way better rapper than Russ for sure.
Well,
but like
here's the
they're the
thing is-
same. Thing.
No. Here's the thing is, Russ isn't colorblind. Logic pushes that colorblind bullshit. That's why I can't stand that nigga. Like he pushes that like colorblind bullshit. Russ is like, no, this is a black art. Y'all need to respect that. And he does some shit like that. I'm like, okay. I got it. But
black though, right? Like he's
he isn't. But like. No, what I'm saying is Logic. I'm not saying he can't rap. He doesn't have a space in rap or whatever. I'm saying he's just obnoxious. That's all I'm saying. He's annoying.
I can see that. I can see why you say that, B.
I done wrote all these notes on reparations and we debating white rappers right now. Whole damn.
You did the reading.
Yeah.
This is actually a college class with me.
Yeah.
So don't worry. I'm not saying he can't. He doesn't have the right to rap. I'm not saying that. It's just what he raps about is annoying. Just like it just like but he has too much to compensate for. That's what frustrates me, right? Oh
Yeah.
shit. My life fell. But and I think that's what bothered me. He's like, especially as someone who also makes. I'm like, yo, stop. You make us look bad, my nigga. Like, stop compensating. Stop compensating. And that's what kills me. Sometimes I about Logic.
Sometimes I feel bad for a lot. Well, my connection to Logic is that like obviously he's from Gaithersburg, Maryland, and he filmed his first couple of music videos on my campus. And like a bunch of my friends who lived in PG County, like were like, yeah, we were extras for the Logic videos back in the day because he would just every weekend be shooting, even though he did not go to the school. But I feel bad for Logic sometimes because he's like, Logic could have been Drake, right? Or Drake could have been Logic, right?
Ooh,
you know, in a way,
right there.
The thing that is awkward about Logic is that Logic is technically good. And I don't mean technically I mean like he is skilled at rapping to a fault. And he wants me to know that to what BP is saying, right? That's what's annoying about it. And because he already puts on the front of like, bro, I need you to know that I'm the best. Like now I don't want to say you the best. And then it's confusing when then people are like hearing it like casually and being like, bro, I feel like Logic is really good, but nobody talks about Logic and everybody's clowning on Logic. And the split is that when this happened to Drake leaned in, and then Drake became all that music was for the next decade. And when it happens to Logic, Logic quit music, which I think is also respectable. But I think, but he's just gonna get clowned for the rest of his or like for the rest of his career, basically, right? Because it's like it's just easy to mock Logic, and maybe I'm just projecting on how much I think that.
I mean, I definitely don't like Drake. I definitely don't like Drake either. But yeah, there was just something about like when, like in some ways, like I feel bad for Logic because his dad is black, and that makes him half black, and like. You know, like I don't want to like erase like someone's racial experience, and at the same time when he talks about that experience, like he also like doesn't really seem to like understand, like he doesn't really like acknowledge also like what it would be like to be white passing and stuff like that. So
like,
there's just
I get really tired of the what was me too white for the black kids, too black for the white kids stories at this point. Is I don't know. I don't really Logic gives me that vibe, and it's just. It rubs me the wrong way in some ways.
It's the way he talks about it really rubs me the wrong way. And like I actually like used to like some of his music, and that just kind of like hearing how he talks about it just kind of like just turned me off.
Yeah. I also went to one of his concerts and he played like a video game for half of it, and that kind of made me feel weird. Yeah,
I mean, he be doing that, and you know what? As a musician, I'm also gonna respect that. Logic has a very particular brand, also why he gets bullied, but that he has a very particular brand. That man played chess, he played video games, and I do like that about him. He doesn't take that same, well, I guess just like a video game person who plays video games all the time and thinks that playing chess makes you smart. He doesn't necessarily have all the critical views around politics and race that I might want from his music, but like his crowd loves that. They like seeing him play. Like when he quit being a rapper, at least this is what I read. Like he just went to stream, and like he was making like 5-6K a month off Twitch donations or whatever the fuck. So
that's it.
I'm like, everything can't be for me, and that's what I'm trying to accept more about our landscape in general, I guess.
I think with Logic, I got to co-sign what everybody else said about his whininess about his race, and then also not only that, but like he's whiny about it, and it's frustrating and annoying. And like as someone who's mixed, I'm like, yo, stop, dog. You're making us all look bad. Like, you stop, dog. Like, you make us look bad right now. And then he does, but not only does he do that, but he does it to then try to justify colorblind bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's what pisses me off about. That's why I'm like, man, Logic, bro, you awful. Like even being whiny, I could have ignored that if it wasn't for like we are all the races. We're all humans. The human race shit like that. I'm like, dog, shut up. Like, shut up. Like, just
don't say that shit. Like, yeah, we're all the human race. But, like the way that people like weaponize that, the way that people like use it to like silence people. It's like, are you? When I hear shit like that, I'm like, are you sure you're not white? Because that just seems like a very like, that just seems like something like a silencing thing to like that a white person would say to just like shut people down when they're talking about racism.
No, for sure, they definitely do use it that way,
man. But we are in the last like few minutes, so maybe we should step up Logic. I want to see what Philosopher Nowhere has to say about from the notes of the reparations.
Yeah, summarize all your notes in 10 minutes.
Go. I'm gonna keep it a bug. This is a shameless promo for my reparations video, which is coming out soon.
There we go.
It's fine. Tell your stuff.
Check it out.
But yeah, we start with the Haitian Independence Debt, which was the first. It was a reaction to the Haitian Revolution, which was one of the first bans on slavery. And if I say anything wrong, y'all can correct me. But this is like Lewis said earlier, we gave reparations to slave masters. So it's like we've literally done reparations before, like several times, several groups of people. But many people will bring up Holocaust reparations, which is fair, but at the same time, those and like other reparations even given to Black people for like, say, the North Carolina sterilization and stuff. Those are forms of reparations, but those were all for like this legal context of victim and stuff. But when we talk about slavery, it's like we're talking about the construction of this entire country versus like a case of white people being shitty. You know what I mean? So that's that. We have many attempts, singular attempts that usually have succeeded. So Belinda Royal was one of the first successful attempts at reparations, and Henrietta Wood as well. After that, we just had past failures of like attempts. The 40 acres is what everybody knows, but I don't think a lot of people know that it was actually given out to some people. But then Abe Lincoln got shot in the head, so that kind of fucked that up. And the guy after him decided to give the land back to the slave owners. And I feel like what the fuck, actually. Like,
It wasn't the guy who shot Lincoln, and it was partially because he was giving the land to the brown people.
yeah, he was racist as shit. Like, that's
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But many people will bring up like the Burge cases, which is this happened in Chicago. My abolition video touches on this more, but long story short is police chief being a sadistic asshole and like torturing black people and them being given reparations. But again, that's like a legal context, a victim of something that happened like in our time period where the victim is still alive. And even when it comes to Holocaust reparations, it took Germany reaching out to them, you know, and them being willing to like talk. I don't see any white American or any like American government, any Western government starting that conversation off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Isn't it like really frustrates me? Because like with the Holocaust, like everyone gets to know that it was fucked up. And then like Germany like does a lot. And like I'm curious to hear like if people think that they should do more. But like I just know that like Germany, like in schools, it's taught we really fucked up. And like Germany like seems to like people in Germany like feel like that part of their history is bad.
Yeah, they're like ashamed of it.
They're ashamed of it, which like, you know, like that's just not what it's like in America. Like people aren't trying to seek to mend what happened. And I think that's why I get so frustrated with reparations, because I'm like, yo, that would be a way to try to mend what happened. There's obviously so much more to do, but
yeah, for sure. And then you can start with just giving like statues to instead of a slave owner to maybe a person who led a slave rebellion.
It's like, symbolic. White people love that shit. You can just do something symbolic instead of like I don't know.
Well, I mean that is how we got Black Lives Plaza though.
Facts, true. Or also, I'm gonna disagree with something that was said earlier. I'm not opposed to just giving all black people money. Like what? Like
I'm not either, but I just fear it's go just not lead to the things we want to happen.
It's gonna go left. I still want to see the chaos happen. I will tell you it will go left.
I'm not gonna turn down
like
$20,000.
I never was a person
honestly, I'm not good.
Like,
hyperinflation though.
To walking up to a white person and be like, "Hey, you owe me $20." Like literally everyone.
That's what I'm
saying. That's honestly me asking on the short end. Because I remember when I was like when I was a precocious youngster in high school, like I had done some research on slavery because like I really didn't like the way teachers were teaching me stuff. So I was like, I found out that like the average slave made was worth $18 a day or something. So then I did the math between like $18 a day for the average lifespan of a slave was like, I don't know, 30 years, 25, 30 years or so. So it's $18 a day times 365 times 30. Whatever. Then you multiply that with interest. They owe us a lot more than that.
Don't forget inflation. Don't forget inflation. But here's another problem with giving out money though. If they gave out the equivalent money, right?
Yeah.
All that would happen. Wait. All that would happen is hyperinflation, right? Because the thing is the amount of money they owe
not necessarily.
Here,
and we
take
can
all
talk
the money
about that.
from Elon Musk.
Right.
We can like single-handedly like make him just give us like reparations, and he can just like redistribute his wealth. And,
right.
Like,
there's
not enough.
Billionaire in the U.S.
But what's the economic value of 60% of European land all put together? Because I don't think it'd be enough with all the billionaires on the fucking planet.
First of all, not to be that guy, but like we're saying 60% of European land, like you know, like Russia is like the most luscious land to cultivate any like apricots or mangoes. So like you know the land argument definitely like once you start getting the financials, it does get weird. But there's a way for the government to give out this money or to redistribute the wealth in a way that like would make sense even without, in my opinion, even without like uprooting the entire like economy structure, right? Because like it just
you can make them take out loans like you did all those.
We do for the banks.
Yeah,
like you made them take out loans to pay back the slave owners. Do that again,
right? The same way we did GI Joe loans.
Just do it again.
I don't know if I can say this. I didn't fact check this, but you know, in how I understand GI Joe loans, like we could do a similar thing to subsidize the advancement of disadvantaged communities. In this case, like the Black community, we can do that, and it would be a choice. It would have to be an agency of choice. You would have to say, "Oh, I got to go to the bank to go say, hey, I am a part of this group. I would like a loan, and then you get that at 0%. They're not even giving you money, right? They're investing in you. There's a lot of things I don't necessarily like about that, but I'm giving like a moderate solution that is super easy to do that would not necessarily cause hyperinflation. How we get that money, to answer you before you go, to Louis' point about like taking it from Elon Musk, like if we take the wealth from the top 1%, over as an annuity, as over long periods of time, because that's how we can't just give everybody a lump sum of $20,000 like all at once, right? It'd make a lot more sense to give it out through some sort of trust or
like a monthly payment,
right? So like that would be paid for, and then those people that are now not stricken with poverty would then increase the assets of the country, raising our GDP, raising our clout level. And like making us more powerful and more money at the end. But the caveat to all this is that we would have to respect Black people. So I'm not sure how this plan would work.
They don't want to see us. They don't want to see us rise. Like there has to be somebody poor. There has to be.
Look, I'm gonna be real. If I went to a bank and they're about to give me a loan for my reparations, I'm straight socking them in their job, bro. Like, what the fuck you mean? You about to give me a loan with my money? You owe me that, nigga. What you mean?
Where's my 40 acres? Where's my mule? Where's my GI? Where? Come on.
Here's the thing.
Bro, at least give me a pair of J's. Damn.
I just don't see money as a feasible like replacement for like what the debt is owed. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think one of the things I think about a lot too is like money. What is money, right? It's like money is like labor and commodities, resources, right? Like so when we think about that,
go back to
like that's why I said it would cause hyperinflation, right? Because it's like not giving us more of the resources, it's not giving us more of the commodities to hold, it's giving us like this thing that's based on showing how much value it is. And if they give it out to us in the degree, because it's way more than $20,000, right? $20,000 ain't shit on what they owe us. And I'm talking about individually, right? So when we think about that shit, it's like, well, what would happen is, I'm thinking about it happening realistically, right? They wouldn't it would tank the U.S. government's economy, which is already doing itself from giving all these bastard rich people like bailouts, but and like from like just not really producing a lot of shit, to be honest, just taking a lot of shit from warfare and being a warmonger, which is what like gets a lot of this like the U.S.'s power, right? So I don't know. I can't picture cash as being anything but like a payment on that interest. Like I'm dead ass down with you like the government and the colonialists giving Black folks cash, but it doesn't go to paying off that debt. It goes off to paying off the interest for that debt. You know what I mean? And because we ain't even think about interest. All the time we talk about reparations, a lot of times nobody thinks about interest. I'm like, no, there's interest on that. There's hella interest on that. Like you owe us hella interest on top of it. And like I said, and when I talk about reparations all the time, I'm talking about like US centric, because I'm like, even within that comprehension, when I'm saying all this, even within that comprehension, that half of Europe, that like over half of Europe is only the US folks. Let's not talk about everybody in Africa. Let's not talk about everybody, the Afro-Latin folks, or like whether they're Puerto Rican or Cuban or so on and so forth. Let's not talk about that, because then that debt is like, there's no European land left and infrastructure is ours and some more shit. And which actually, if we think about it, would be fair, since it was literally built off of our backs in all the European Western powers. So it's like literally they wouldn't have anything without us. And we're not even counting the inventions we made that allowed them to have life the way it is now. Like most of everything that gives modern day life was created by people of the African diaspora. But we don't talk about that either. So because we don't talk about Black scientists like we should.
No, for sure. A good start for me is just like not realistic, truthful Black education.
Oh, you got it. All right. Yeah. We're overtime anyway, so peace out, Lewis. I want to give a shout out to your channel before you dip.
Yeah, you can find me at Professor Flowers on YouTube.
All right.
Okay, cool. See you, everyone. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
See ya.
Nice talking to you.
Peace, Lua. Always good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Richie.
But yeah, for sure. I just feel like let's not focus on just money as like a facilitation. Like we can be more creative than money. I can think of many more things.
Well, I would say what my practical thing is, like Colorblind, you had it right the first time, I think, when you mentioned earlier just about like what money is and like how like, its value. Like it doesn't have any value like outside of like what we get for it. So like monetary and even to a large extent, land isn't necessarily just going to be a solution when we think about real reparation. So I'm gonna go back to what philosopher Noah, what you said earlier about what actual reparations is, what we can do from a practical standpoint. Because like I had this whole long argument thought out in my head, and on like how we could make reparations practical. And like the simple framework is to think of it from an abolitionist perspective. So like how do we work like how do we backtrack like all the epigenetical stuff, like free healthcare for Black and brown folks, free education, free school for Black and brown folks, and then abolition of police, prisons, and like all those different things, the criminal punishment system. Like, but I was very much specifically trace it to like abolishing the criminal punishment system. Like, because if you think a lot of the economic and all those other issues, like that lead folks into the criminal punishment system, like those are all because of lack of access to resources, communal things, like all those different things play into that. So, like, if we start working from the foundation of an abolitionist perspective about how we build up our communities first, and like we demand that we have those resources for our communities, that's like where real reparations begins. For me, that's how I would actually start reparations.
Facts.
And it'd be a global thing though too, because oftentimes what gets lost whenever we're talking about reparations and even like the criminal punishment system, we don't think about anti-Blackness and we don't think about like all that stuff from a global perspective. Yes, America might be the worst, and maybe they may not be the worst. Like some other places are pretty bad too. Like America gets all the credit, but they should not get all the blame. Like it's like it's a pretty big spectrum of like anti-Blackness that exists globally. So like I think as we think about this, like thinking about not just on like American soil or so-called American soil, like this idea of reparations, we can extend it globally in terms of like all those different institutions and the way all those systems play together.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Well said.
All right. Thanks for ending with that, Richie. Does everyone I'm gonna give everyone a chance to plug their channel before we bring it out. And you know, any projects that y'all got coming up.
All right, I'm Phyllis Sonor, and I'm having a reparations video coming out within the next 2 weeks, hopefully. I'm gonna film it tonight. I'm editing now. After I get off this,
my channel is Colormind on YouTube, and someone in the chat just asked if there's any Black people into MMT or modern monetary theory. I am. That's going to be what my next video is about. Coming on like where I'm shooting it right now. That touches it a little bit on MMT and on dispelling some myth about inflation. So, yeah.
All right. I guess Richie, do you want to talk about any of the stuff we're doing? Since you don't really have a YouTube.
I'm absolutely not a YouTuber. I respect all of y'all in that space doing the thing. I follow most of y'all. If I haven't, I'm gonna start subscribing to the folks that I haven't subscribed to yet. Like y'all are putting out dope ass content. Me personally, like if y'all like BB can definitely give you some detail on like what the stuff that we're doing, but like first and foremost, I'm an abolitionist, so y'all want to get involved in doing stuff on the ground, like that's where the real like work is gonna be at. Like, okay, let me say it that way. Like that's where some good work is gonna be done too, because like doing the social media field is absolutely real work, and like much respect to everybody in that space. But we're working on like in terms of reparations, like and tracing it back to abolition. Fight toxic prisons. We're working on like closing down prisons, like in Kentucky, Alabama, Texas. Like there's like a whole bunch of different campaigns that folks can get involved in. And it's not just about like shutting down prisons. It's also about providing support for our communities, which is a major part of what we do. So yeah, I mean, I definitely go on for this for hours.
No, you want to touch on just real quick, like 2 minutes or less, the Kentucky struggle?
Yeah. That was the call we were just on tonight. Yeah. So like one of the biggest things that we're working on right now, Letcher County, we defeated $588 million prison proposal 2.5 years ago. Ridiculous ass Kentucky legislators have proposed a new prison in a very similar location. So we've been on some early meetings now to kind of like start our opposition for it. To start like the opposition for it now. I don't know. What are the key details about that? Like,
I mean,
there's many ways to get involved. We're gonna have hearings that anybody can be involved in, like sending comments in, stuff like that, like spreading the information. Like, if you know folks on the inside, we're attacking this from a lot of different angles, from environmental angles about like prisons being built on toxic lands, like the very real toxicity that exists in all prison systems, Endangered Species Act. Like, we got some stuff. Like, there's a lot of different angles we're gonna work on this. So,
yeah. So you follow Fight Toxic Prisons on all the socials. And if you want to get involved and connect with us, and now I'll shout out my channel on my YouTube hat because I got multiple hats. You know what I mean? So taking the organizer hat off and let Richard do most of that and put on the YouTuber hat. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like the button. Hit the like button. Comment, share this. I feel like this is a conversation that should hopefully go widely because I think there's a lot that could be learned that we all shared and we all brought to the table. And also, as other Black folks, y'all all have space in this conversation. There's no person that is like the expert that you gotta listen to. Your feedback is just as valid as anybody else's. I'm gonna be very clear about that. You know what I mean?
That part.
But anyways, as far as my channel, like I said, subscribe, follow, do all the little things. Leave comments down below, not just in the chat, so you can like feed the algorithm. I also got a story time coming up. Still working on the Beaumont one. It's a little longer, so like there's a lot to it. It's one of the bigger productions. Will take me more time, especially when I keep putting out content and don't just stop and focus on that. Then it takes me a lot longer to put it together. So it will be coming out. And I've been talking about the Abba and Preach and Khadijah stuff, specifically how that interaction happened and like putting some feedback, not necessarily as in the fan beef, but like, just criticism on like thoughts that were given from both sides. Though I definitely lean way more to Khadijah than Abba because Abba kind of frustrates the fuck out of me a lot of times. But I'm thinking about making it. So if y'all want me to make that, leave it in the comments on my like what's it called, the community page part of YouTube, and I'll make it. But if not, we'll just keep pushing on. So let's throw it out there because I like engagements. But thank y'all for tuning in and rocking with us. Subscribe to everybody's channel here, and we about to be out.
All right.
See y'all for having me, man.
All right, it's gonna be slow.